Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit more shorter-term technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets, guys, and more specifically, there are quite a few different technical indicators that I have found to actually be predicting bearishness for Bitcoin and a potential rejection from $6,000 that we have, as of yet, not covered here on the channel. These are important technical indicators, and these are important signals that we want to incorporate into our trading so that we understand where Bitcoin is actually going to be headed over these next couple of weeks. We want to take into consideration the bearish facets of the market and, of course, the bullish facets of the market when we're doing our TA. So we're going to be looking at those technical indicators later on, but also, guys, we have a long laundry list of news to get into in today's video, the first of which has to do with Apple's watch welcoming Bitcoin. There's a new app coming out for Bitcoin that will be incorporating Lightning Network. Interesting news story that we'll talk about later. After that, we're going to be looking at Brave, because Brave browser, as you guys may be familiar with, is getting quite a bit of traction and is actually doing extremely well. Dethroned Google Chrome for a little while. Very big deal. And of course, guys, the coup de grace of today's video, you all knew this was coming. Binance security breach. Guys, if you've been watching anything or following anything relating to the cryptocurrency space as far as the news is concerned, you will know that Binance has just gotten hacked for $40 million. That's 7,000 Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about the hack, but more specifically, I want to talk about CZ's consideration of rolling back Bitcoin to undo that hack. Now, that's not going to go ahead and happen, but this does open a very interesting security and decentralization conversation about Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency community. We'll be diving on into that later on in today's video, guys. I think we have a good one lined up for you today, so if you enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like. Hit that subscribe button and smash that notification bell, guys. We do cryptocurrency videos every single day. But without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into it. As you guys can see, Bitcoin is currently trading around $5,850 at the time of recording this video. And of course, Bitcoin has been trending to the upside for quite a while here. If we go ahead and bring out our 20 exponential moving average, one thing that we'll find is that Bitcoin, when it's in these little 4-hourly trends right here, when we're in an uptrend on the 4-hour, we're above the 20 EMA, and we're below the 20 EMA, we are in a downtrend. Right now, we're very much above the 20 EMA, and we've come down and tested it about 3 times here in these last couple of days, 1, 2, 3. Bitcoin has managed to stay above it. But as you guys can see, this 20 exponential moving average is curving up here towards that $6,000 level, and if Bitcoin doesn't fall over, eventually Bitcoin is either going to be forced to break above $6,000 or below the 20 exponential moving average. I expect that's going to happen within the next week. And honestly, guys, I want to believe that Bitcoin is going to break $6,000, but $6,000 is an incredibly powerful level of resistance. And I've seen people saying in the comment section, oh, well, Jeb, $6,000 is just a psychological level. The real resistance is at 6,700, or the real resistance is at 6,200. Listen to what you're saying here. The real level of resistance is not where the psychological level is. I don't agree with that for a second. Where the major psychological level of resistance is where the resistance is. Because, guys, what you must understand about technical analysis, and about the way the chart moves and about how support and resistance themselves work is that they are nothing but psychological levels. That is everything that support and resistance is. If these markets were being traded by bots, and those bots or even humans didn't look at technical analysis at all, they just bought and sold on random, technical analysis would be completely and utterly useless. The reason that technical analysis is so very powerful is simply because of the psychology of the traders in the market. And that's why technical analysis takes on a different light when you work in markets that are being mostly traded by short-term bots or long-term investing bots or long-term investors themselves. When you look at Bitcoin, we have a lot of humans trading in cryptocurrency. There's not as many bots in the cryptocurrency market as you would find in, say, the stock market. So short-term technical analysis is even more powerful, in my opinion. And what you have to understand is that $6,000 is a psychological level of resistance. That is specifically why it is so powerful. It is because $6,000 is a major psychological level of resistance that it's so powerful. You can't use that just to write off 6K. That is an extremely powerful level of resistance, and one that I think we are going to have a hard time getting through. And I think we are going to get through it, but guys, I'm not totally convinced just yet that Bitcoin's going to break straight through it here in these next couple of days, in the next week or so. Maybe we will. I don't really want to make a prediction on that, because that's one of those things where it can really go either way, and I would feel irresponsible for putting my name behind either one of those predictions. Bitcoin could break through it. Some whale could come in later, late in the day when most of the cryptocurrency space is asleep or half the world's asleep, or we could see somebody come in and sell all that $40 million worth of Bitcoin they just hacked from Binance, and then crash the market below the 20 EMA and see Bitcoin move to the downside. All of those things are very possible, so I don't really want to make a prediction on that. My prediction that I will make is that I think Bitcoin will be above $6,000 within 3 months, probably within a lot shorter time frame than that, but that's just a conservative estimate because I don't want to throw out really crazy FOMO type predictions because, like I said, that would be irresponsible of someone like me who has a voice in the cryptocurrency space. But I do want to keep moving on here to other technical indicators because there's a very important one that I want to bring to you to your attention. That would be this one candlestick right here. If any of you guys know anything about candlestick analysis, if you've gone through CT2A, there's a video in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. Link down below. You can see where we have that video on the sales page. If you go and look at that video, if you're in the course, you will find that I talk about something called the shooting star in that video. And this is a perfect example of the shooting star candlestick. I haven't seen a lot of people talking about this. It's not one of those things that's, oh my gosh, this is revolutionary. This one piece of technical analysis is going to change the entire paradigm of Bitcoin. It's not like that, but this is a very important thing to keep an eye out for, is this candlestick right here. This is a shooting star candlestick. Essentially what a shooting star candlestick is a candlestick with a small lower body. It can be green or red. It doesn't actually matter. What is important here is that we have no wick on the bottom or a very, very small wick on the bottom. We have no wick, so that checks out. And then we have a very long and tall upper wick. Right here, we see a gigantic wick, probably about 3 to 4 times longer than the body down here. That's a shooting star. Essentially what a shooting star is it's a bearish reversal pattern, guys. You see them at the top of bullish trends, and then you see this market start moving to the downside, because basically what happened here is that the bulls tried to push the market way up here, and then they failed and came all the way back down there. The bears pulled them back down. If this were red, it'd be just a little bit more bearish, but it doesn't actually make much of a difference. Now, one caveat to this is, of course, the next candlestick that Bitcoin has had is looking to be green, so maybe this gets written off, but I did want to bring that to your attention because I haven't really seen very many people talking about it. One other thing that I want to discuss has to do with RSI. You guys know that I'm a very big fan of the RSI indicator because so many people use it. As I talked about earlier on in the video, the mass psychology of the market is so very important. What the majority of people are doing their technical analysis on oftentimes is what is going to be the most important for all of our technical analysis. Because if everybody sees a bearish sign on the RSI, like what I'm about to show you, RSI divergence, if everybody sees that and starts selling and shorting based off of that, well, guess what, guys? That's going to crash the market, and then that gives credence to this type of indicator. That's where the power of these technical indicators come from. That is why RSI is so powerful. RSI is not so powerful because of the math behind it. RSI is a very simple calculation. If you're in the course, watch our RSI video. I go over exactly how our RSI is calculated. I mean, this is the kind of math that you're doing in 7th grade, guys. It's not very complicated math. The reason that RSI is so very powerful is because so many people use it and so many people trade by it. And the reason that so many people trade by it is because of so many people trading by it. RSI is a very powerful indicator because it's a powerful indicator. It's like how some celebrities are famous because they're famous. And what we're looking at here on the RSI is that we have a downtrend on our RSI. And of course, we already had drawn on our chart the uptrend on the RSI. That is, as I've talked about in a couple of videos previously, classical RSI divergence. Also, if you're in the course, there's a video on classical RSI divergence and there's a segment in the RSI divergence video on classical RSI divergence. Go check out that video if you're not very familiar with RSI divergence and you're in CT2A. Like I said, link in the description. RSI divergence is very powerful, and more often than not, it will give you a very valid prediction for the market, especially when it's a longer term RSI divergence like this. It's not like we're seeing this downtrend right here and this uptrend right here having a shorter term RSI divergence. This is a very long-term RSI divergence over the span of a month to a month and a half or so. And that typically is going to be indicative of something. But that's not all, guys. Billy May is here because as we look down onto the 4-hourly chart, we're going to see the exact same thing forming on the shorter term time frames. Bitcoin is, of course, trending to the upside here over the last couple of days. And over the last couple of days, we very clearly have a downtrend on the RSI. Again, classical RSI divergence on a shorter terms time scale. But once again, Billy May is here, guys, because on the hourly chart, guess what we're looking at? We're looking at a downtrend on the RSI here as well. This is very important, and we need to keep an eye on this because when you see RSI divergence, like I said a second ago, more often than not, it's going to be important, and more often than not, it's going to lead to the prediction that RSI divergence is making. In this case, classical RSI divergence is predicting bearishness, and more often than not, the market is going to follow through on the prediction that that is making. Bitcoin has been overdue for a correction based on RSI divergence and also based on the length of this rally for quite some time. The only thing really propping us up is everybody being super excited about a bull market. So if we start seeing bearishness and we start seeing Bitcoin break important levels of support, then a lot of that exuberance is going to leave for the time being, and people are going to think, okay, well, Bitcoin is crashing. Bitcoin's going to go back down to $4,000 or so. I'm not going to buy anything yet because Bitcoin's going to go lower, and then I'll buy in lower, and then I'll invest for the long term. That's what a lot of people are going to be thinking if Bitcoin does start crashing and moving to the downside. If that happens, expect to see some kind of thing like that. So if we start to see a major downtrend right now, it wouldn't surprise me if it exacerbated all the way down to $4,000. But like I said, that's a big if, and let me tell you why that very well may not happen. One of the reasons that may not happen is because we're so close to $6,000, and as I've said in many videos, there's a magnetism to these kinds of levels. People are waiting for Bitcoin to go to $6,000. There are memes all over Reddit, all over my Discord server, all over the internet, all over YouTube about $6,000, and for good reason, because it's a very important level of resistance, and I think Bitcoin at this point probably will go up and properly test it. Normally, you do see that happen when you're close to a major level of support or resistance. You will actually test it rather than having a little crappy test like this that we saw a couple days ago. We're probably going to come up here and test it, but whether or not we break it, I'm not making that prediction right now. Like I said, that would be irresponsible of me. But what I will say is be ready for a Bitcoin bull market in 2019 and probably within this quarter and the next quarter of this year, because I do think one is coming. But in the meantime, what I showed you in today's video is predicting bearishness for Bitcoin. Of course, there is always the bullish side. Just because I didn't cover it in today's video does not mean it's not there. It just means that I wasn't focused on it in today's video. So guys, that will do it for the technical analysis portion of today's video. So let's go ahead and jump on into the news portion of today's video. As you guys can see, Apple Watch welcomes Bitcoin. Now, Apple themselves are not welcoming Bitcoin in this news article, but what we're talking about here is the crypto wallet provider Blue Wallet and the fact that they've just announced a wallet app for the Apple Watch, which will now enable users to pay with Bitcoin using Lightning Network, making the wearable device the first Lightning-enabled watch app. Because we have so much news to get to in today's video, I'm not going to dive deep into this, but if you have an Apple Watch and you're interested in this kind of thing, come check out this article and do a little bit of digging on this. I just thought it was interesting and another big win for adoption on Bitcoin. We're seeing these kind of news stories with big names attached to cryptocurrency come out every single day. I'm loving seeing this. I'm loving where Bitcoin is moving here over these next couple of months on into these next several years. I think we've got a lot of good things coming. That was just one thing that I wanted to mention. Speaking of another big win for adoption, Brave browser is getting a lot of traction and may soon dethrone Google Chrome. Guys, this video is being recorded on Google Chrome. A lot of people use Google Chrome. That is not Google's a very big company. I just bought a new phone. I just bought the Google Pixel 3 XL. It was like $1,000 phone. Google has a very big presence in the technology community, a very big presence on the internet. Obviously, they're an internet company owned by Alphabet Inc. Google Chrome is a gigantic browser with millions and millions and millions of people using it. And the fact that Brave is starting to inch out Google Chrome, that's a very big deal because Brave is a browser built around cryptocurrency. Brave has become the most popular browser in the cryptocurrency community. And by the way, if you guys are wondering why I don't use Brave, the reason I don't use Brave is because I need to use a ton of different plugins that only work with Google Chrome for the YouTube channel and for my other businesses. That's why I mainly run Google Chrome. But I do like Brave quite a bit. I believe very much in the Brave project. I like the person who's running it. I like the basic attention token, the BAT token. Very big fan of it. So don't take me using Google Chrome as a write-off of Brave. I do definitely support it from everything I know about it. It was able to conquer this demanding audience thanks to its philosophy of using blockchain technologies to change the way we conceive the entertainment and content distribution industry. Now, one of the things that Brave is so very famous for is the way they do advertising. There's not really anything going on with advertising on Brave. It's a complicated thing. I'm not going to get into it. If you're interested, go check into Brave. Go check into the guy who founded Brave and who's working on BAT. Very interesting stuff. I very much like the way that they're approaching advertising. But this one right here, this paragraph right here is what I want to talk about. Recently, Brave even dethroned Google Chrome from its privileged position as the second browser on the list for a brief period of time. Right now, both apps, and this is talking about mobile, right now both apps are competing for the silver medal, although neither so far has been able to be a dangerous competitor to Mozilla Firefox. Mozilla Firefox being, of course, another gigantic browser. I'm pretty sure Google Chrome is more popular on computers, on PC, and maybe not necessarily Mac, but on the mobile market, Mozilla Firefox is quite big. I'm not going to get too much into this. There's a lot of other news that we could go on to with this, but I want to get to Binance. This is a really big win for cryptocurrency as well. I like that Brave is doing very well. I'm very glad the basic attention token is doing quite well as well. I think this is another big win for adoption, and I'm going to leave it at that because, like I said, we do need to get on to the main news story of today's video, which is, of course, Binance, guys. The last two news stories that we've looked at have been bullish news stories. This one, not so much. The first thing that I want to point out here before we even get into this story is that Binance was just hacked for $40 million. Binance was just hacked for $40 million. What happened to Bitcoin? Bitcoin barely moved. As you guys can see down here, headlines for BTC. Actually, you can't see that. That's off screen for you. But there's a little headline box down here for BTC that says Binance breach doesn't crash. Binance breach doesn't crash Bitcoin. Is the market maturing? And that's an interesting question. Binance was just hacked for $40 million, guys. That's not a small amount of money. Now, for Binance, that's not a crazy amount of money. But for everyone else, $40 million is a good amount of money. And that is a big news story that everybody knows about. Everybody's talking about this right now. Bitcoin hasn't really crashed. I'm liking that. I like seeing that Bitcoin hasn't crashed from that. I'm not going to complain, not in the slightest. We're here on Binance's Zendesk.com. We've discovered a large-scale breach today, May 7th, 2019, at 1715 minutes and 24 seconds hours UTC. Hackers were able to obtain a large number of API keys, two-factor authentication codes, and potentially other information. If you guys use Binance, go and check and make sure that everything is safe. Wouldn't be a bad idea for you to go and change the phone number that your 2FA is connected to, and to go ahead and change your password since there has been a hack. Binance is pretty sure they know what's going on here, but they're also not totally sure of what all has been affected, as they say here. There may also be additional affected accounts that have not been identified yet, and very possibly that is yours. So make sure you go and check, and make sure you go and reset your passwords. Never a bad thing to reset your password every once in a while, and make sure that it's still uncrackable. One thing that we want to get, well, not necessarily uncrackable, but you know what I mean. One thing that I want to get into here in this news article is just how transparent CZ from Binance has been. I very much appreciate how transparent he's been. He's been talking about how Binance was talking about going ahead and recovering these funds, which we'll get to in a second, because this is very disturbing. And he's also been very, very transparent about the fact that there's been a hack. They've been transparent about how they're going to recover it. They've been transparent about the withdrawals and deposits being suspended. All the unscheduled maintenance, very transparent. I'm a very big fan of that. This is the news. This is kind of the piece of cake right here. The hackers were able to withdraw 7,000 Bitcoin in this one transaction. 7,000 Bitcoin, that is quite a lot of money. The above transaction is the only affected transaction. It impaired our BTC hot wallet only, which contains about 2% of our total BTC holdings. Like I said, this isn't the biggest. This isn't like going to shut down Binance or anything. It's definitely a step in the wrong direction, though. All of our other wallets are secure and unharmed because the funds are safe. The hackers had the patience to wait and execute well-orchestrated actions through multiple, seemingly independent accounts at the most opportune time. The transaction is structured in a way that passing our existing security checks. Basically, what they're saying here is that the hackers knew what they were doing. They acted very professionally, and they got the job done. Of course, I'm not a fan that they got the job done, but apparently they did a good job in doing the job that they got done. Anyway, that's basically what's going on here. We've had a hack of Binance, but the main thing that I want to talk about here is not actually that Binance got hacked. I want to talk about this. CZ, Binance has decided not to pursue the reorg approach, and basically what this means is rolling back the Bitcoin network to before that transaction happened, so that that transaction where the hackers stole the Bitcoin gets put back into Binance's wallet. Let that marinate for a second. That is disturbing. That's borderline Orwellian to recover stolen Bitcoin. Now, of course, Binance is not going to go ahead and go through with this. I'm not in any way bashing Binance because basically all they were doing was brainstorming. Not a problem with this, but I do want to talk about this because this is a very big deal for the decentralized nature of Bitcoin. On Wednesday, just hours after digital asset exchange Binance had announced they had been hacked and suffered a loss of around 7,000 Bitcoin, its CEO, Changpeng Zhao, also known as CZ because a lot of people don't know how to pronounce his name, said that after consulting with several prominent members of the crypto community, Binance has decided not to attempt a rollback on the Bitcoin network in order to recover stolen Bitcoins. And you might be wondering to yourself, Jeb, Bitcoin is decentralized. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. How do you roll back a cryptocurrency? Well, that's a very good question. And essentially what they were talking about doing was going back every single block that had happened in between when the hack happened and when the actual time that they would do this, and paying all the miners what they would have gotten to mine those blocks to go ahead and alter the history of the Bitcoin network. Essentially what we read here in these three tweets, we'll go over it. This comment understandably shocked and angered the cryptocurrency community on Twitter. Here were just a few of the responses. Vortex: 1, even if a friendly blockchain reorg was possible, which I honestly don't think it would have been, to specifically let's go ahead and close that, to specifically target the stolen funds, it would absolutely set a terrible precedent in the Bitcoin network. The perception of immutability and digital gold would be lost entirely. And they're completely right. If you were able to roll back Bitcoin and stop a hack like that, even once, if that happened even once in the history of the cryptocurrency market, the entire industry would be completely shooken to its core. It'd be shooketh to its core, and Bitcoin would lose a lot of its credibility. Whale Panda says no one is going to reorganize the Bitcoin blockchain over this. No bailout should ever be done. This isn't Ethereum, throwing shade. 7,000 Bitcoin isn't that much for Binance, which is true. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. As I always say, if you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough. And I think it would be pretty dumb, and I don't think we're tough enough to handle what Binance was talking about doing. 1, back of the envelope math on doing a 58 block reorg. Current confirmations of the TX that took money from Binance when this tweet was posted. Let's go ahead and stop opening Twitter. I'm sorry about that. Minimal cost, 58 transactions times 12.5 per Bitcoin block reward equals 725 Bitcoin it would cost for Binance to go ahead and achieve this rollback if, and this is also a very big if, we've been talking about a lot of big ifs in today's video. This is if Binance could get, I believe it would take over 90% of miners, ideally up to 100% of the miners, to agree to roll back the Bitcoin network all the way back before that happened. And guys, this would cause absolute chaos in the cryptocurrency community. So I'm very glad that Binance did not decide to go ahead and attempt this. Now, here's the thing. Binance most certainly has enough money to do this kind of thing. It's not an issue of money. Binance has hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Based on the math that Jimmy Song is doing here, it would be quite easy for them to pull this off. It would not be very expensive at all. The reason that I don't think this would ever happen would be because you would have to get these miners on board. Those miners are not obligated to go along with Binance's scheme of rolling back. And that's one of the great things about Bitcoin, is that any way you try to manipulate Bitcoin, any way you try to get into and crack the underlying code, the decentralized nature of Bitcoin, there's always something stopping you. And one of the things that's going to stop you in this instance is not money. It's going to be stubborn as hell people who absolutely refuse to compromise the core fundamental values of Bitcoin for a couple $100. Most people are not going to be willing to do that. Some of them will, a large portion of them will, but I don't believe for a second that enough of them would be willing to do this for this to ever be possible, and I very much certainly hope that it stays that way. That's one of the reasons that we need to keep the mining space in cryptocurrency decentralized so that this kind of thing can never happen, no matter how good, how beneficial, how benevolent the reasoning is. The mere act of doing it would be evil, in my opinion. I don't care what the upside of it would be. Anyway, let's go ahead and read through CZ's tweets here, and then we'll go ahead and wrap the video up, because this is pretty much what we want to talk about. This is one of his first tweets. These tweets that we're going to be reading here are in chronological order, and essentially CZ just kind of brainstorming what Binance is going to do after the hack on Twitter. I do have his Twitter account up here, but everything I really want to look at is in this article. CZ Binance. After speaking with various parties, including those listed on screen and others, we decided not to pursue the reorg approach, considerations being: pros, 1, we could revenge the hackers by moving the fees to the miners. 2, we could deter future hacking attempts in the process. And 3, we could explore the possibility of how the Bitcoin network would deal with situations like these. And I don't even necessarily agree that these are pros. We could revenge the hackers by moving the fees to the miners. I mean, giving the miners a little bit of a bonus is definitely a good thing, I guess, but based on what it would cost, I don't really think that this is a pro. This is just kind of something that would happen along with it. Deter future hacking attempts in the process. Honestly, I think that's a con. Not because I want people to hack anything, but because of what it would take to cause them to be deterred would institute some kind of, not police state, but almost something similar to a police state in the cryptocurrency space, where the exchanges themselves are able to force the Bitcoin network to do certain things. Maybe Binance doesn't like that. Maybe Binance has a vendetta against someone that just bought a $40 million mansion, and they want to get that payment rolled back. So the dude who bought the mansion's in a bad spot. Maybe an exchange doesn't like someone, they have a personal vendetta against them, so they go and pay off the miners to roll back that transaction. Not a good precedent. And 3, explore the possibility of how Bitcoin network would deal with situations like these. I don't want that possibility explored. I want that possibility put in a closet, locked in there, put behind like a 12-inch door, and then have the key thrown like in a pit of lava. I don't want that explored. Keep that out of here. I don't want that in the cryptocurrency space. That is not a pro, even in the slightest. Now, going on to the cons, which I very much agree with. 1, we may damage the credibility of Bitcoin. I think may is a bit of a light term there. I think almost certainly, or certainly would be a better way to put that. 2, we may cause a split in both the Bitcoin network and the community. I think that would very much happen. The Bitcoin miners who agree to do this and the miners who agree not to would definitely be at each other's throats, and that would take years to resolve. See what happened with the Bitcoin hard fork over Bitcoin Cash. That took a long time to resolve. People are still up in arms about that. People are still pissed off about what happened. This would be that times 100. Both of these damages seem to outweigh $40 million worth of revenge. I completely agree. The hackers did demonstrate certain weak points in our design and user confusion that was not obvious before. Definitely a good thing. Sometimes when you get hacked, it's actually a good thing because you learn where your weaknesses are and then you can go ahead and cover them. Con number 4, while it was a very expensive lesson for us, it is nevertheless a lesson. It was our responsibility to safeguard user funds. We should own up to it, we should learn, and we should improve. As always, thank you for your support, and thank you, CZ, quit opening Twitter. Thank you, CZ, for being so very transparent with us and deciding not to go ahead and pursue this. I would be very, very pissed off at Binance if they did even try to pursue this. I don't think that they would succeed. I would most certainly be closing my Binance account if they went ahead and do this. At the time being, though, anyway, I'm very pleased with the way that this was pulled off. I think it's okay that Binance was considering this. There's nothing wrong to brainstorm with these kind of things. Binance is a very transparent company, and basically all they were doing here was allowing us in on their thoughts. So I'm okay with that. I'd rather, if they're going to have some kind of terrible idea like this, for it to be public so that the public can help them make the decision not to do this, than to keep this decision behind closed doors and then go ahead and do it, and then screw over themselves and the entire Bitcoin community. If this kind of thing were to be pulled off, this is like a Mt. Gox level of bad to happen. I'm glad this didn't happen. But anyway, guys, before we wrap the video up, well, one thing before I get into that is, to wrap this up, is that Binance, CZ Binance also pointed out, to put this to bed, it is not possible. Bitcoin ledger is the most immutable ledger on the planet. Done. And I agree with them. I don't think it ever would have been possible for them to actually pull off what they were brainstorming here. Like I said, they were just brainstorming, so no harm, no foul on Binance's part. There's nothing wrong with thinking about things so long as you don't go ahead and do them. Anyway, guys, like I was saying, now to wrap the video up, one of the last things I want to talk about here is the fact that Binance and other exchanges, while they do a very good job, they're very professional, I'm a very big fan of them, Bitcoin is not something that you can get back if it's stolen. Binance, the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the cryptocurrency space, lost $40 million and they can't get that Bitcoin back. You're not going to get your Bitcoin back if it gets stolen. You will never see it again. There is a 100% chance that you will never get that back. I don't care if you lose another 1,000 Bitcoin. I don't care what you lose. You're not getting it back. So here's the moral of this story. Keep your money, keep your cryptocurrency off of exchanges. Do not leave your Bitcoin on Binance. Do not leave your Bitcoin on Coinbase. Do not leave your Bitcoin on BitMEX. Do not leave your Bitcoin on Bitfinex. Do not leave your Bitcoin on Bitstamp. I don't care where you're leaving it. Don't leave it on exchange. If you are not the only person on the entire planet to have access to your private key, and there is any way possible for someone to get access to that private key, that's not your Bitcoin. That's someone else's Bitcoin. They're just waiting to take it. They're waiting for the right opportune moment. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of paranoia so long as you're not using it to go do a Watergate or something. You need to have a little bit of paranoia when you are working in the cryptocurrency market, when you're working with large amounts of money. There's nothing wrong with having a small trading position on a cryptocurrency exchange. There's nothing wrong with that. But keep the majority of your cryptocurrency in a cold wallet on your computer, on a Ledger Nano S, on a paper, for example. You can write down your private keys on paper and then destroy them everywhere else. Keep your Bitcoin somewhere safe, guys. And a cryptocurrency exchange is never going to be the safe option. If you don't have access to your private keys, and especially if you're not the only one to have access to your private keys, that's not your Bitcoin. That's someone else's Bitcoin, and they're just pretending like it's yours. Don't be fooled. By the way, speaking of being fooled, I almost forgot to mention this. I hope you guys are still watching. I'm going to put this in the comment section down below. I received an email this morning from someone. If I remember, I'll put this up on screen. I'm probably not going to, though, to protect their identity. There is someone pretending to be me and sending out emails to my subscribers, the email account cryptojeb0@gmail.com. Mr. cryptojeb0@gmail.com, you're not fooling anyone. You're certainly not fooling me. You certainly weren't fooling the subscriber who emailed me and forwarded your very poorly written phishing email to me. You're full of shit. Don't try and scam my subscribers, and if you're one of my subscribers, or actually if you're anyone who actually has any kind of moral code, unlike the piece of crap that we're talking about here, don't fall for this. If someone ever emails you claiming to be me, they are not me. If I'm claiming to be myself and I'm emailing you, the only reason that I will ever email you is if you are working in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, and if you ever have any questions as to whether or not I am who I say I am, there are a plethora of ways that I can prove who I am. No one else can do that. So if anyone ever emails you out of the blue, I've only emailed one of my students out of the blue 2 or 3 times having to do with certain business issues. That almost never happens. If someone emails you, especially giving you an offer that is not me, send me that email immediately. My actual email is on the About page of this YouTube channel. You can go there, tick the thing that says I'm not a robot, go to my email and forward me their phishing email, and every single time this happens, I will make a video on it, and I will talk about it in a video so that people don't get scammed, especially under my name. That is not me. Do not fall for that. They are terrible people in this world. Don't give them any of your money. Let them go ahead and find an honest way to do it. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I will and truly denounce anyone who is trying to fish or otherwise scam people in my name. You are a terrible human being, and you belong in the worst pit that I can think of, trying to take people's money. It absolutely disgusts me. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching this half an hour long video, guys. There was a lot to get into in today's video, but like I said, I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.